this one unit was giving us with older Sonos systems when there are... Hey, how's it going today? Seth here with Air Theater Designs, and we got a new friend stop by. This is the Monitor Audio Studio 89 speaker. So let's go back in the Wayback Machine, right? Year was 1989. Many things were rad. Many things. You had great music, right? You had stoking glasses. Remember the old Oakley frog skins and blades? Quite gnarly. You had fantastic haircuts, right? Couldn't go wrong. But you also had some new technology for Monitor Audio. So they came out with what they called the Studio 15, which was kind of revolutionary. It was a smaller, kind of thin speaker. And this is back in the day when all your speakers were these big, gigantic boxes. They were a black gloss, kind of like these guys, and they had sort of the characteristic that we've learned to know, smooth sound that you've got with Monitor Audio speakers. So Monitor Audio, they said, well, let's go back to our roots. Let's continue this rad legacy, and let's see about breaking these guys out as sort of a homage to the past, right? So why is the Studio 89 awesome? Well, you'll see. First, we're going to talk about the technology with these guys. We're then going to talk about the listening in our demo and kind of what we heard with certain tracks. And then we'll talk about sort of our final thoughts and if these are for you. So, sound good? If so, all right, let's get into it. First, the technology of the Studio 89. So, a couple things. One is you've got this MPD3 high frequency transducer. We'll just call it a tweeter. So the thing about this particular tweeter here is, and they actually use this in their Platinum series, which are their very high end, not their highest end, they're crazy hyphens, but the Platinum, they're very high end speakers, and their Gold series, same tweeter they use. This uses kind of a variant of an AMT tweeter. A lot of you might be familiar with that, Air Motion tweeter. A couple of the benefits are, one, the material in this is very light and very responsive, so it can respond quickly when it gets a note. Faster the tweeter can respond to that. More detail that we can hear. You got 100 notes that hit in a couple seconds. You can hear all those notes as opposed to a material that might be slower. Also, that material, where it looks like a little box yay big, it's actually much larger than that, so it gives you a wider sound. And we'll talk about in our listening demo, a word I'm going to say a bunch, kind of airy and ethereal sound out of high frequencies. It helps to provide that as you've got a larger material that's kind of throwing that out, or a larger surface. So that's a good thing. You've got two, sort of a wacky driver size, two 4¼ inch drivers. These are a C-cam material. They made up the term C-cam. Cam, it's kind of a aluminum magnesium compound. Sort of Oreo cookie style. So normally with drivers, you have a couple options. You go, hey, we got a driver that's really fast. You use a material for that, but that can introduce ring. So the combination of those two gives you a fast driver, but it cuts down a little bit of that ring. So that is a good thing. 6 ohm speaker. So you can, 6 ohm, 86 dB sensitive, so you can push them with a lot of stuff. We'll talk about that though, because these are amp selective, I guess we'll use. And so we'll talk about that power setting, but also what they sounded better with to us. Rated at 53 to 60 kilohertz. That's at a -6 dB setting. So that might be exaggerated a little bit as far as bass. 60 kilohertz, people go, hey, why do I need to hear above 20? But there are studies at how that plays into harmonics and other things. They got kind of a slot port on the back of these dudes. Weigh a little under 17 pounds. Move this guy over here. And then the stand that comes with this, they sell for $27.50 a pair, so they are not cheap. Come in gloss black, gloss white. They got these optional stands that are about 820 bucks. The stand, it's kind of a bolt through, so this is all one piece. So if you touch the speaker up top, it's not going to flop right over. The stands add about another 12 pounds per. So if you look on websites, it'll tell you 24 pounds. That's wrong. They're 12 pounds. But you can also fill those. So if you want a bit more stability, a little more denseness, fill those with play sound or your favorite material, and you're good to go. So that's kind of what you see with the technology of these guys. Let's talk about the demo and the listening now. All right, so for our listening test, we're talking about, the 80s and all, so let's listen to some 80s tracks. First track that we put on these was Depeche Mode, Blasphemous Rumours, great jam, 1984, from the Just Some Great Reward album. That whole track sounds just ridiculous, and in a good way. So you have lots of synthesizers going on, Depeche Mode, I mean, it's what they play. And there are effects throughout that entire track that either pan back and forth, little clicks, little pops, and the way that this is presented in that track, we had a speaker a little wider out there and we had it out there for our demo. You're hearing things way off to the sides, and what kind of magic is this? There's no speaker there. You're hearing those things through this track. You're hearing information going back and forth where it's panning the whole space. It's awesome. It sounds really, really good. That's probably the best I've heard that particular track sound on the various speakers that we've demoed through here. That was cool. Also, the bass was surprisingly strong through that. So that 53 hertz, again, a minus 6 dB setting, so you'd see it's actually, higher than that. The bass was really good in that track. Now these guys, I would recommend a subwoofer if you want to get crazy low, but that sounded really good. That track, total A+. Sounded amazing on these speakers. Then we got to stick with the 80s, right? So we put in a little new order, The Perfect Kiss. Wanted to kind of see some imaging stuff. At about 20 seconds in that track, you've got a drum, a snare that kind of hits right in the center. You hear it right in the center. So we got our other stuff going on, new order stuff, synthesizer stuff, and then you hear that drum right here. Again, that's another one where certain instruments do really well with these, and synthesizers are one of them. That track sounded great. Wanted to bust out then also, get away from the synthesizers a little bit. We did some Talking Heads, This Must Be the Place, great song. This track is really complex. You've got a lot of various notes that come in, from drums to whistles to some little cha-cha-cha thing. I don't even know what it is. But I heard notes in this and music I'd never heard before. I've heard the song, 1,000 times in my life or whatever. That was pretty cool. Bass also was really punchy during that song, which again was surprising, the bass that I heard out of these things. Violins playing through that, just really, really good. String instruments work really well. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit here. So talking about the 80s, well, we decided to go, 1991, that's close to the 80s. So we did Tears in Heaven from Eric Clapton and the acoustic version. We wanted to hear just kind of guitar strings. We've heard that song many, many times, and guitar strings sound like amazing magic guitar strings in the air in front of you. It doesn't sound like it's something that's being, emitted from a speaker. You hear the fingers on the strings sound palpable. I mean, they sound like they're there. Definitely rad, definitely worth a listen. And then we're gonna cheat one more time. So we went to 1993. We played Linger by the Cranberries, and we also went with the acoustic version of this. And this was one where you just had a whole wide sound stage of instruments, vocals, and all the good stuff. That was very impressive, just how wide it was. And at a certain point, you had some cymbals and tambourines that kicked in. The tambourine is, it's probably lost its luster in today's music. Used to be a big thing though, but way off to the side over there, we're hearing cymbals and little tambourine action, and there is no speaker over there. Again, what sort of wizardry is this? That was great. Really, really good track for that. So we were impressed by what we heard during our demo content with this. So let's talk about some final thoughts with these things, right? All right, final thoughts of the Monitor Audio Studio 89. So a couple things. One is, I think they're going to be better in rooms where you have multiple placement options. So let's say that this was all like, built-in cabinet. If you got a couple slots where you could fit these things, probably not the best. You might see where your bass is limited there, as opposed to having spaces where you can bring them out from the wall a little bit, play in the room a little bit with them. So a couple other reviews we saw on these say, you know, room to breathe is good. And I think that's very true. So guys who put that in your review, you're good. I like the way you think. Another thing we notice is that the amplifier choice, we feel, really makes a difference with these guys. So we were rocking this with the Yamaha RN2000, pretty ridiculous stereo receiver, you know, sells for about $4,200. And that really made these things come alive. We tried a couple other things. We had a DefTech WAMP, which is we call it the WAMP. It's a WAMP. 150 by 2 streaming amp, kind of, it's extinct now, but it was all right. We used the Marantz Model 50, kind of an $1,800, actually tariffs, I don't know what it costs now. We used that piece, one of their Marantz's integrated amps, analog integrated amp, and it sounded pretty good, but with the Yamaha it came alive. And came alive meaning, again, I mentioned I reuse these words, details just becoming more defined, airy, the airiness of these things, you know, high notes being ethereal. Yeah, I know I mentioned I use these words lots of times. The Yamaha made that alive. Now, when I started doing this stuff 30 plus years ago, and I'm kind of a logical guy, when somebody would say something like that, I would go, okay, I see. So what if I then take the cheaper speaker you're talking about and use that with the step-up amp? Won't that give me the same sonic benefits? And then, you know, guys I'd talk to would kind of hem and haw, like, I guess you're right. I have learned, though, that sometimes you'll find, would I see sonic benefits going with a lesser speaker and using with that Yamaha? Absolutely. But I've seen that when you go with better high-quality speakers, a lot of times those benefits are really amplified. Oh, that's a pun. Really amplified using better speakers. And that's kind of what we noticed with these. Like when we use these with the Yamahas, like, man, that is the match made in heaven. So that's a good thing, but it's something to consider with these, that amp choice. So who's the guy or gal that should buy these things? Let's say you love, going back to the 80s, little Public Enemy or Guns N' Roses, and you want to play it to level 100. Not the speaker to buy. Buy the old DCM KX-212s we got from Circuit City way back in the day. These big monkey coffins, giant 212s in each one, play really loud, make your neighbors angry. That's what you need for that stuff. However, if you listen to music, you listen to classical, woodwind, strings, you love the idea of that type of detail. And one of the things, like, high frequency sometimes can be fatiguing for people. With these, it's kind of like a high frequency with a little cotton ball on the top, right? So you get all that detail with a little softness. That sounds kind of wacky. Right now you're probably, what is the hell is this guy talking about? High frequency, a cotton ball on the top. What are you saying? But if you listen to them, you listen to those high frequency, a lot of strings, woodwinds, violins, then you'll go like, now I know exactly what the guy's talking about. You get this high frequency and detail, but with the softness, it isn't fatiguing. And that's a great thing. So those types of music, those types of instruments and presentation, and something that is beautiful like this, I think that's a great option. We'll put some links on our site also where, let's say if you live in, I don't know, England, New York, but you find this helpful, you want to buy some, go in there, click on the links. That'll make us $1 or $2 so we can continue doing reviews like this. And I don't know, Ethan, maybe eat some lunch today or something like that. Very helpful for our channel. And we'll have some other information that's in there as well. We appreciate you stopping by. We're going to get to the weekend. Thank you again for stopping by. Have a great day.